Hey, welcome to Resilience is a Muscle, from setbacks to comebacks. I'm your host, Lori, and this is the podcast where we get real about what it actually takes to recalibrate forward, show up, and keep going. Every episode, I'm sharing something that helps you build the reps to grow stronger. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here and honored to have our guest today on the Resilience is a Muscle podcast episode, Sheila Maitland. Sheila is a licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor, addiction therapist, and CEO and owner of the Relationship Enrichment Center in Matthews, North Carolina. It's Relationship Enrichment Center.
Enrichment,
Yeah, Enrichment.
Yeah.
In Matthews, North Carolina, right here locally around where we are today.
Yes.
We're in Charlotte hosting this podcast today. So excited to have somebody local here on the podcast. And Sheila brings deep clinical experience to the conversation today. Her experience is around trauma, addiction, attachment, and really the dynamic challenges going on today with the modern families and relationships. So I'm super excited to have her on here and this conversation we're going to have today. So welcome, Sheila.
Thank you, Lori. It is a pleasure to be here.
And so I'm thrilled to have this discussion with you. Tell me what resilience, when you hear resilience as a muscle, what do you think?
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I know that when I work with people and we deal with some of the tip of the iceberg, which is the behaviors, the substances, and the medicating that is making it impossible for somebody to access any resilience, then we have a beginning. And then we have this opportunity to, once the medicating is out of the way, begin to develop more capacity, more nervous system regulation that is all about resilience. If I always flip out because the person that's driving is cutting in front of me and I can process that or understand where that really resides, I have this ability to have capacity and resiliency to not flip out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To move forward and to kind of find a new behavior pattern.
Exactly.
Right? I can relate to the
Exactly.
flipping out.
Yeah.
My mom, I love my mom dearly. She passed away a few years ago, but she was a yeller, and when you model that, right? When you're
Right.
modeled that as a child throughout your whole life, you become your parent, right?
Exactly.
And so for me, it was my kids teaching me that, do you really need to do that? Is that necessary to yell at me like that, right?
Right.
And realizing how I was being my parent. I relate to some of the Geico commercials where it's like, you can't stop being your parent, right? It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
We build muscle that we build pathways or connections in our brain that we think are fixed. Oh, it's just who I am, right?
Well, and it usually comes out of an adaptation. Like the intention when we build it is brilliant.
Yeah.
Until it's not working anymore.
Right.
And to your point, this phrase fits so well with helping people. The saying that those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it, sort of like if I stay unconscious, or in your case, my mom was a yeller, so I was a yeller until somebody intervened.
And somebody says, maybe you don't need to do that anymore.
I wish that's all it took, but
Well,
usually
sometimes it does, right? Sometimes
right.
it is. It's simple as awareness.
Yeah.
Because somebody doesn't realize they're doing it, right?
Yeah.
And until somebody else says to you, or enough people say to you, hey, and that's why when I teach my students, I'm always saying to them, because they'll say, how do I take feedback? Because feedback is really what it is, right?
Yep.
We get feedback, and what do we do with it, right? Do we listen to it, or do we get pissed off and ignore it, right? And who's giving us that feedback? Do I respect that person? And so I tell my students about, how do you take feedback from people? It's like, first question I'll ask them is, well, who's giving you the feedback? Because that's your first thing you need to ask yourself. Is it somebody who cares about you and who wants to see you grow and develop, right? then you might want to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
If it's somebody who's just, you don't know the situation, right? It could be somebody who just doesn't like you, doesn't
Mhm.
agree with you, and they're giving you feedback, and maybe that's not valid, right?
Right.
So validate it by
Yeah.
talking to others, right? And depending on what you need to do as far as growth and development, let's talk about that aspect of mentor, coach, therapist.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of people misunderstand the need for that, right? And we do a lot of work in our organization with people coming from really tough, adverse, lives. They were, either drug addiction, criminal backgrounds from their parents, whatever it might be. That's hard being raised in that world, right? And so when you're being raised in those really adverse, you have things that you're trying to overcome, and you build skills to protect yourself, right?
Correct.
And you try to figure out how to move forward, right?
Mhm.
And so when you think about somebody who's mentoring you, when we mentor students, we're not therapists. We're coaches, we're not therapists, right? And so we draw the line, and we have to sometimes have conversations with candidates and say, let's hook you up with somebody who can help you with this, because we can't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's understanding, where is that line. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think that more than anything, the line is about the relationship. I think people come to see me or people in my practice based on the consequences that they're having or the isolation that they're feeling and the stuckness, and that family and friends aren't always very helpful. They will talk to the person with "you oughta," "you should just," "if you only," and that's in language and in communication 101. That is probably some of the least effective ways to take in information.
Yeah.
It elicits defense and it elicits shutdown. And so when somebody comes to us trying to assess what's happening and what are they trying to accomplish, where in their life are they having consequences, that is really what we do with an assessment, and in trying to determine, does this person need help with refraining from numbing and medicating.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but I have found that I can lose a lot of time on my phone.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about addiction a little more. Yeah. Yeah.
And that isn't even considered
Addiction.
really a substance.
It's not considered addiction today, right?
Well, it is, especially if what you're looking at is creating other problems in your relationships, like looking at pornography or talking to people that erode the trust and safety in the relationships that you care about.
Right. Right.
And it's just this incredible hold. It's in the brain. It's dopamine. It's
Yeah.
a rush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's addicting.
Very, very. Yes.
Yeah. Even though in today's medical terms, yet, and I'm sure this is going to evolve, right? Because this is all new to the medical industry. They don't know how to deal with this stuff, right? And there's some statistics out there that I wrote down here for today's call, because I knew we were going to end up in this conversation about social media, binging on Netflix, all of these things that are happening to people out there, right? And there's 24% of adults say they prioritize watching shows over socializing and time with family and friends. That's pretty big number, right? And that's the people who will admit it, right?
And those are the adults.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm, I think, a lot more concerned about the younger generation that doesn't know how to talk to somebody, doesn't know how to shake somebody's hand
Right.
or, articulate much. And that COVID has something to do with
It
that
does. I was
as
going to say
well.
it started with that, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's these layers that kind of happened to us since 2020, right? The technology became more pervasive
Yeah.
and more accessible, right? And we excuse me. We talk about accessibility, right? We want everybody to have access to technology because you can learn and you can, improve. But there's a consequence with that, right? And so we
Exactly.
have that pervasive technology coming out, and then we add COVID on top of that, right?
Right.
And then we add a political
Mm.
nightmare on top of that. And so now all of these things are kind of happening, and life is becoming more complicated for people.
Well, and what I know can also be incredibly um, joining and helpful for connection for the people that struggle with medicating, isolating. Uh, it becomes more of a comparison, and it is even more devastating. And I think it can lead to. Um, I hope my son won't be upset, but he was the one. I was so proud of him. He said, "I've just got to get off of all this social
Oh, I can
media."
tell you, we'll share son stories.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I don't
So
want to violate his confidence, but
no, no, no.
yeah,
But reality is, we're living this too,
yeah,
right? We're living
yeah.
it just like everybody else is. So
Right.
my son is brilliant when it comes to that. All three of my sons, all of them. but
Mine's more brilliant.
but reality is that they're self aware enough
Yeah.
to know this is a problem,
Right.
right? So when our
Right.
kids are telling us, "Hey, this technology is a little bit too much," we
Yeah.
need to listen, right? And
Exactly.
so and even my son's phone now, he's got it turned on to the grayscale because he
Mhm.
knows that if it's dark and black and white, he's less likely to look at his phone,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so everybody's struggling.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so from what are you seeing when you have, not that you can't, this is we'll stay HIPAA compliant here and not go into specifics about patients, but what are the things that you're seeing growing in your practice?
Well, a lot of broken intimacy. People that are raised thinking, for instance, that pornography is okay. And I am not the pornography judge or police, but what I keep seeing is how pervasive and disconnecting it is. It's it seems to erode intimacy.
Yeah.
It erodes the ability for people to talk about what they want and what they need as one example. And jumping all the way to pornography, let's back it up with, the power of texting. I don't know how to talk to somebody, but I can text someone, want to get together.
Yeah.
Um, like losing the ability to have social interaction and or agency to sit with somebody, tell somebody if I'm struggling, how do I do that?
But this is the brain doing that, right? Because it's uncomfortable, right? So the norm is no longer the norm. And so the
Right.
brain is never designed to deal with this kind of constant change, right?
Yeah.
And so it's looking at everything as a threat. And so when it looks at it as a threat, now you've got somebody saying, "Oh, I'm just going to text them because I don't want to deal with that,"
Right.
right?
Well, and I think it also is incorporating the body because I think that the my brain will often lie to me,
Oh yeah, mine too.
but my body won't.
Yeah, interesting.
And so we try to help people access from the neck down.
Right. How are you feeling?
Well, and it's really about am I in relationship with me and me? I know I should be respectful, honest, and kind as a social person,
Hmm.
but am I respectful, honest, and kind when I'm talking to myself?
Right.
Or am I giving myself the hardest time? Or am I being dishonest with myself, but then expecting you to be honest?
Right. Right.
It is it is flipping the focus from external
To internal.
to
Yeah.
internal,
Yeah.
and it is this rewiring.
Yeah.
When people are faced with something traumatic, and that could be I had this traumatic experience as an 11-year-old on a boat.
Yeah.
and I survived. And yet, when I'm in in certain situations now, I know I'm not on a boat, but my body remembers and my brain remembers the boat. And so my brain uh, shuts down or it shrinks and I'm in survival.
Yeah.
And this is like this part when you're talking about resiliency
Yeah.
and capacity, because I need some awareness that, okay,
It's going to be okay.
I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like I have to re regulate. And I love this analogy that, if you're looking at a Google map, the brain is like the Google map. And when I encounter something terrifying, it's like the map, it's like I'm scrunching it.
Mhm.
And
I'm
so
pinching and zooming.
I don't see
Yeah.
all these options. I only see uh, like the expressway or the major rivers. I can no longer see the little tributaries or the pathways because my brain has gotten so small and I'm in such a crisis in those moments until I'm able to re regulate. Hopefully, talk to a safe person that's not going to say, well, it wasn't a boat accident. You had nothing to be afraid of. Get over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But instead, somebody that is co regulating with me. Like,
Yeah.
are you okay? Let's just take a deep breath.
But here's the challenge with that, right?
Yeah.
This is what I see, at least, and with my own children, right?
Yeah.
Is that we weren't taught to do that, right? We were modeled very different.
Yeah.
And so this is why, for me, the book was so important,
Yeah.
was that we're not teaching this. I was never taught this. I learned it the hard way, right? By having relationships be estranged because of my behavior, right?
Yep.
And so how do you help people in the future? Because this pace is not going to slow down, right? Things are not going to change for us. It's going to only get more pervasive with AI and this pace. And so we as humans have to learn how to be resilient and work through these things and manage our emotions and regulate like it's a muscle that we just we know how to do over time because we're practicing it and practicing it. And we're not going to be experts at it. We're going to fail, and that's okay because that's part of the learning. But we need to be, as a society, open to be able to say to somebody and learn that, hey, you just made me feel uncomfortable what you just said. Can we try that again? Or vice versa, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I made you feel uncomfortable. That wasn't my intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we, instead of having that open dialogue, we shut down.
Right.
We get angry. We disconnect, right? Because it's easier. It's easier to walk away than it is to sit in that uncomfortable space and say, hey, let's try this conversation again.
One of the things that we do when we are working with people is we try to help them with their words and with communication, because even the way in our culture and in our language, it's so socially acceptable to speak in the you.
Yeah.
You hurt my
Yeah.
feelings, as opposed to, I really felt hurt when you said such and such. And that might seem like I'm splitting hairs.
No, it's true.
But-
It's language is everything.
Well, so here's the example. So I was driving here, and when somebody cuts in front of you and then you lose your mind and then you have road rage?
Yeah.
I have just taken something that might be true about me and I just sort of slimed you with it,
Yeah.
as opposed to how much reflection it would require for me to say, I was driving here and I got really dysregulated when somebody was applying pressure and then I wanted to fight back in my car. This is frightening, right?
Yeah.
Or imagine, I do a lot of work with couples, and asking couples to refrain from using the word you
Yeah.
And to speak in the I, it changes everything. It requires a slowdown. And so I agree with like the pace of everything. I also would add that what is so necessary is capacity for stillness.
Yeah.
Teaching how does one do that? I can't tell you how many times people come into my office and they're like this.
I live like that every day.
And so, sometimes what we do is the invitation for some breath
Yeah.
and
Yoga,
yoga.
meditation. That's
Yeah,
that's kind of how I find that's a big thing for me because I am type A. I'm going constantly, and because of my in the book I share in the resilience of the muscle my life story and why I'm just always on the go and on the move
right,
and not everybody can like that energy sometimes can be really negative for people.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I also just have to make this plug because i- it's not a plug, it's biblical. Like in Genesis, we take this deep breath.
Yeah.
And that like teaching people how to return to the breath, how to return to the
Homeostasis.
well, and the body and the brain working together,
Yeah.
not one or the other.
Yeah.
Uh, because a lot of the people that I meet and work with are so shut down from the neck down. They just want to figure more stuff out. And when it feels hysterical relationally, it's usually historical.
Yeah.
And so trying to break that apart, trying to slow that down, like the power of two people that are getting more and more agitated and amping it up more and more and more. And how do you teach that couple to maybe for a few minutes turn around so they're not seeing one another?
Yeah. Recognize and be aware that this is kind of dominoing and this is getting escalating and maybe we need to take a deep breath.
Well, to take a deep breath, and if I were to look at something other than the person that maybe I'm irritated with, I might have a little sense of me and me. What is happening for me? Why am I losing my mind here?
Yeah, what's the trigger?
It's just the dishwasher,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. What's the trigger right now for me? What's really going on? What's really
Exactly.
triggering me, right?
And I don't think there's a lot of platform to be curious about that in all the fastness to your
Yeah.
exact point.
Yeah.
Like, how do we do that?
Yeah. Yeah. How do we slow down
Right.
and recognize? And part of one of some of the stories that I share in the book is that connection with family too,
Yeah.
right? And so when you think about what you're doing in your work is helping families reconnect,
Yeah.
right? So that they can recognize and kind of
Mm.
realize that these things might be the problem, right?
Yeah.
And that you want to come kind of get back to the relationship that you had, right? Or a new relationship that's even more powerful than it was.
Well, and it's so, people come in because their partner's doing this or their partner's doing that, or we can't seem to fill in the
Yeah,
blank.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, their drinking has escalated, their drug use, their compulsive eating, yeah. And as much as the person who's concerned, they too have probably lost any agency. Like they too are abandoning themselves to try to fix the other.
Oh yeah.
Just like the person who's medicating is also not being true to
They're
themselves.
just
And
numbing
so,
themselves.
right. And
Yeah.
so bringing it back to where did I'll ask my clients, what is the story about when you learned to take care of everybody else and not tend to yourself? And usually, a lot of cases, that's even a pre-verbal
Right.
experience.
Right.
It is the culture of the home. It is the mood of the home to have this heightened sense to where the little ones are scanning because they can feel the tension too.
Yeah, the energy in the room. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've had my kids share that. It's the energy in the room. You can sense it, right?
Right.
You can sense the discomfort,
Right.
and that doesn't make them feel good, and that
Yeah.
causes fear, and they're now, I think about learning and capacity to learn when your brain is,
Yeah.
under that fear and threat state. What do we can't learn,
Right.
right? And so when we think about as parents, how are we preparing our kids for the day, right? In the morning. I think about all these parents who are working 2 jobs,
Mm.
they're getting the kids off to school, and I know that personally because I've lived it. You've probably lived it as well.
Yeah.
That, that morning time is probably the most important time of the day to set your kids' brains ready for learning, right? In that positive way. But yet we model, are you taking the kids to school today? Am I driving the kids? Who's driving the kids, right? All of that stress, right?
Yeah.
That they're seeing it all and you're modeling it all. So how do we kind of step back, take a deep breath in that moment and say, hey, let's hold that conversation till later because let's get the kids off to school,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about us, right? It's about them right now, right? And just pausing in the moment and reflecting on our kids and our employees, maybe even too, right? It depends on
Sure.
who you are, whether you're leading or you're parenting. We all have to learn how to take a deep breath. And I love the you and the I piece that you mentioned, because I know through my coaching training that, your language is everything.
Yeah.
When you say something to somebody and you want to have a really deep, meaningful conversation with somebody, the worst thing you can do is say something that triggers the person you're about to have a conversation with,
Yep.
right? And saying, you shouldn't have done this. It's just, you're not going to have a good conversation now, right? Whereas if you say, hey, I'd love it if we could talk about how you and I are working together, right?
Yeah.
Or, asking permission,
Right.
right, to talk to somebody instead
Yeah.
of saying, we need to talk about this now, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And or I need to share. And do you have time for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I like
am
that.
struggling with something. And even as I try to teach and direct and using examples, how important it is to even tee it up in the eye.
Yeah. And I think that it requires the pausing for a few moments to get your language correct.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, I talk real fast. So I have to actually okay, slow down. Right. And so, and get the brain to slow down. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because the words are coming out and they're not even thinking about what you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's take a deep breath,
Right.
stop and pause. Everybody will wait for you. And then get the words right. Right. Get the words right.
Well, and so often fewer words elicit more curiosity.
Yeah.
Which is also really a cool thing.
It is. It is. And we need to be more curious. We need to
Yeah.
ask more questions and be more curious, because that's how we make connections with people. That's
Yeah.
how we create bonds, like with our kids. I think about, hey, how was your day at school today? But what happens is if you ask that same question every day, they just think you're just, you don't really
Yeah.
care, Mom, about what happened at school today. You just ask me that every day when I come home. Right? Instead, think about what are the questions you want to, what are the conversations you want to have with your kid, right?
Right.
That in that moment. And what questions could you ask that really get them intrigued and curious about the conversation?
And leading in an I statement. I had an amazing day and I want to tell you about it. And I also want to hear about your day. Like there's the ask.
There's the ask. Yeah.
Because I think when I lead with I believe it's really easy to hide behind why or how.
Yeah.
Like, why did you leave your shoes there?
Yeah.
I don't really want to know.
Yeah. I just don't want you to do it again.
Well, I'm just making a point.
Yeah.
And probably a point that is going to be received defensively.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel so frustrated that I'm the cleaning lady here. Or I think the thing about being parental and directive with kids is a lot different than with partners. There's a place with children. I'm not going to go into lots of eyeing. I might say to a child, sweetheart, it is time to put this away. I'm asking you to put this away. Will you please put this away? With a partner, and the shoes are sitting out, that same language is going to be, it's not going to fly. It's not going to create, it's not that it's not going to fly. It's not going to create more intimacy.
Yeah.
It's going to create more function,
Yeah.
tasking. Like, I am phenomenal at tasking at my house. It's really different when I'm more vulnerable with my partner and I'm sharing something about something that I'm struggling with. And it might start with, I'm really struggling with the shape of your office, and I would like to talk about it.
Yeah.
And he might say to me, I hate that you're struggling with my office, but I'm not talking about it.
Right.
And that's a completion.
Right.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
A much more vulnerable thing to say might be that I'm really struggling with the state of my dad's health right now, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
And to be softening about that rather than ranting about his office.
Right. Right.
Like, there's a me and me in that
Mm-hmm.
versus your office looks like.
It's then directing
Right.
and creating the tension, and tension creates lack of intimacy now, right? So now you're almost like tearing down your relationship, right?
Yeah.
Over time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, let's talk a little bit about, the addiction topic again with social media and that. What would you say to, somebody who is like binging on Netflix, for example, and they're up late at night, and because this is a common thing, right?
Mhm.
Personally too, I've been there. And I've got to like ask myself, what
Yeah.
are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you on this TV right now? What could you be doing differently? I have to actually have the conversation in my head
Yeah.
to tell myself to stop it, right? Because it is a form of addiction. And that addiction can turn into depression and all kinds of other domino things, right? And to, numbing,
Yeah.
all of those things. So what do you tell people?
Well, when it's something about if it's about Netflix, I would probably start with, I'm wondering if you're telling me this, if I'm in a professional capacity, is going to be enough, or is there somebody else that you need to help hold you accountable? And I'm not going to recommend a partner or a lover. I'm going to recommend someone that's not going to be threatened.
Yeah.
Like I have Amber. I could call Amber and say, honey, I have got to commit, and I want to hold myself accountable by letting you know tomorrow I have really got to be in bed. I cannot keep binge watching like that.
Yeah, I like that.
If I ask my husband to do that and then he becomes the Netflix police,
Right. Then
we're in that.
yeah, exactly. That could go
Right.
really wrong.
Well,
Yeah.
and then that's true about substances that are more mood altering.
Yeah.
If I this is a good one. Honey, if you hear me in the pantry after 7 o'clock and you know that I'm rummaging around looking for something to eat, I want you to intervene. He's like,
He's got to
he
be the
wouldn't
food
do
police.
that.
He's got to be the food
Right,
police, right?
right. But if I could call Amber,
Yeah.
Amber's going to say, what do you need?
Yeah.
Like Amber's not going to.
Yeah.
So that's one level of intervention.
Yep.
Um,
What if you don't have an Amber?
yeah, then I think that's
I think that's where a lot of people struggle, right?
right.
They don't have that person that they can do that with, right?
Well, and I think that is so much more a societal
It is.
issue
It is.
because I should have a lot of Ambers in my
Yes,
life.
exactly. But because of technology and all the things that we're spending our time on, we're not building those connections so that we have an Amber.
So maybe you come in and you're really identifying that as an issue, and then where do you go? I remember being in therapy for the first time in high school, and the therapist asked me if I had any friends. And I'm like, no. Why would I want friends? And this is before technology, of
Yes, yes, of
course.
course, of course.
I'm a dinosaur. And so him helping me break down what would it mean to pick up the phone, or what would it mean to like see someone at school and ask if you could sit with them at lunchtime, like breaking down the steps of
To do that
friendship.
because they don't know how to right now.
I didn't know how.
Yeah, and they don't know how now because
Right.
they've been isolated for COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at the different generations, there's some real each, and I think the Gen Z, the Gen X, the Gen Y, whatever they have now, like every single one of them has
Yeah.
some characteristic that they've been impacted by COVID
Yeah.
and by technology,
Yeah.
right? From a learning how to build connections and social relationships, right?
Right.
And we need them. We
We
need
do.
them. And there's all kinds of data on this for people like my age, right?
Right.
I'm going to be 64 this year.
Mm.
And, people, as you get older, you need friendship,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
that's important, right? And so if you don't have that, it actually impacts your health.
Right.
And so how do we
And
make sure?
longevity.
And longevity, yeah.
Yeah.
So, building those connections is so important. Yeah.
Well, I agree. So helping someone with some strategies for that, there's also a lot of social avenues in the context of recovery.
Yeah.
We do lots of group work, and I know you do as well, because group work with some guidelines for safety,
Yeah.
emotional safety. Well, I should start with, I was a member of a group in my 20s, and I went there because it was less expensive than therapy.
Yeah.
But I stayed in the group for 6 years,
Wow.
and I did it because I loved feeling seen and heard.
Yeah.
And I think about that group, and I've done many, many groups as a facilitator. It's really what inspired me to get into the field.
Oh,
It
wow.
was
Interesting.
so healing.
It was so healing for you that you were like, I got to do this for everybody.
I loved going to group where there was at least 90 minutes a week of some guaranteed connection and safety.
Yeah.
And I felt seen and heard. And that seems so small.
That's the dopamine part of it and the norepinephrine and that
Yeah.
bonding and that connection that happens. Our brains love it,
They
right?
do.
And it feels good.
And our souls need it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So when you said, we do that in the classroom because we know that when you're teaching technology and things like AI and coding, it's not easy,
Right.
right? And so if you can create that safe space for somebody to ask a question that they think, oh God, if I ask this question, somebody's going to think I'm really stupid, right? And we don't want them to feel that way because if we can't get them past that, they can't learn.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's really about teaching our instructors to create that safe space, right?
Right.
And then create the environment where it's okay to ask really stupid questions because you need to,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and I think about AI and some of the things that people are doing now, like asking AI questions and things like that, about everything or now, right? Which is wonderful, but it's not connecting us.
Right.
And it's powerful, but it has some negative things, and we've got to be careful as a
Yeah.
society that we don't allow AI to become our best friends, because that's never going to give us the emotional connections that we need. It's never going to do that. So I caution people all
Yeah.
the time that use AI, that, it's about how you use the tool, right? I just
Mhm.
did an article about the hammer and how, a hammer's a great tool, but in the wrong hands, it can be really dangerous. And
Yeah.
so when you think about AI, it's the same thing, right? It
Right.
can be really powerful and enlightening and help people learn better, but it also can be there's a consequence that we already know from social media that when we put an internet out, it's wonderful, right? We can now connect around the world, but there's a consequence with every good thing,
Mhm.
and we have to be aware of that consequence and be just right in front of it all the time and
Yeah.
ask ourselves and our children, what are you doing to be social out there today? And ask yourself, your brain should be having that conversation. What am I doing this week? Who am I seeing in person? Right?
Mm.
I work from home. I know this all too well. Right? And my staff works from home. So I like find places for them to go because I
Mm.
know it can be a problem.
Yeah.
Right? So social connection is so important for us. So when you think about your group sessions, right?
Mhm.
What are you doing out there for yourself and for others to kind of create those spaces for people to make those important connections?
Well, I love that you're saying that about working from home. It's fabulous. And I would say 90% of the work we do is in person, in Matthews, in an office. And it's a little old school in that sense. But
It
I think
needs
it
it. We need
is,
it.
people are starving
Yeah.
for it. And a lot of times people will say, I have to see somebody in person. So
Yeah.
that's great. I also think that um, if a person were to also begin trying to make some connections, maybe it's at the gym and it's after their yoga class and it's just getting a soda or a sparkling water together.
Yeah.
Like how do you gently begin to do that? I think there's a lot of places where social connection is um, right there for someone, certainly in any kind of a faith community.
Mhm.
Um, when people are in the throes of medicating or they're really in trouble in their codependency or their isms, there are all of the 12-step programs. And these are all the things that are free and they're really rooted in the power of accountability and connection. I have a lot of people that come and say, well, there's no way I could do that. And to be able to say to someone, well, actually, I think you could do that, especially if you could call ahead and maybe meet somebody in the
Yeah.
parking lot
Yeah.
to walk in together.
Yeah, I love that.
That is it's so human. It's such a literal step in asking for help. And as somebody is trying to look at the consequences of their drinking or of their medicating, to hear other people's experience, strength, and hope is just essential.
It is.
I can't be the judge, the jury, and the executioner for my own malady, especially if part of the presentation of addiction is denial. It is a sophisticated and complicated experience for people, whether they're using and having consequences, whether they're using and they know they're in trouble, or they're just like, you do not have to be getting DUIs or getting divorces or ruining relationships to get help. Like
Yeah.
this raising the bottom is so possible.
Yeah, one of the chapters in my book I write about the resilience is it's contagious, right?
Oh, so
It is.
contagious.
So when you get, like you for that's what motivated and drove you to do what you do, right?
Yes.
And so for
Yes.
me, that just not having great experiences and learning was what made me do this, and it's contagious. So you can
Right.
be a part of that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're socializing and you know somebody who's
Mm.
not, how do you take the steps to go engage them, to ask them?
Yeah.
Hey, come with me to this networking event I'm going to, right? I
Yeah.
think you'd love it, right? And I'll meet you at the car. I'll walk in with you,
Right.
right? That's kind of how you could do it for somebody else, and that is powerful for
Yeah.
ourselves
It
It's like gift
is.
giving. They talk about with gift giving how powerful that is to feel. That same thing can be with how you help someone else
Yeah.
make a connection to someone else. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
All right. One thing I want to, we're kind of almost wrapping up, but I want to talk about estrangement a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So
It's such a new popular,
well, it's been around
yeah,
a long
cutoff.
time,
Oh, I
right? So I
know.
think, we're going down the path of estrangement because I think that COVID, the political landscape, a
Mm.
lot of things, technology have, just like addictions, have created this estrangement. And and the more people I talk to, they have estrangement. I have estrangement in my life,
Yeah.
and it's like it's almost like it's the feeling emotionally for me. It's like somebody died. It's
Right.
like grieving for
Right.
someone, right?
Right.
And that's and there's the steps. How many steps for grieving? I think there's the 10 steps or 12 steps for grieving, right? And so it's no different. You have to recover from it,
Yeah.
right? And so and there's so many people out there. The more people I talk to today, and here's the thing of why we don't know about it and why it's not popular, because it's embarrassing.
Right.
You don't want to tell anybody that you're estranged because they might look at you and go, "Oh, it's your fault." Right? They judge you, right? And so tell me what you're dealing with estrangement. How do you help people with estrangement?
So if somebody is asking me or considering cutting off a relationship due to its pathology, like putting some context around that. This is an abusive relationship. This is a relationship where no matter what, when I keep going into the relationship, I feel bad. I don't like how I behave. I don't like how I'm treated. Then looking at what it would require to stop, what in me and me maybe participates in this, um, and what would me and me have to do to no longer do that. I would need a lot of support so that it not, what I wouldn't want it to do is to be a huge reaction, a cutoff, and that's it.
Yeah.
But instead to maybe try, like whether it's agreed upon with the other person, or if you were coming to my office and asking me about that, I might say to you, Lori, what would it be like for you to take a 60-day break to really assess what it's like for you without this constant, painful, like I would try to break it down, not in a forever and always, and I would try to do it with intention.
Right.
And maybe it is necessary for greater boundaries
Yep.
in the relationship. Now, a lot of times people will show up in my office because they've been cut off.
Right.
Somebody cut them off. And so, of course, dealing with the grief of possibly, if this were your case, I would be very curious about your experience of feeling misunderstood.
Yeah.
I would be really curious about what maybe you're learning from this and or what was your part of this,
Right.
wondering if there's a way that whether it ever happens between you and who you're estranged from, what needs to happen for you to make peace? And
Yeah.
sometimes that's symbolic work.
Right. Right.
Sometimes that's, I want to write a letter to the son of a gun and like wanting to support you in that phase.
Right.
And then also wanting to support you in the phase where you're full of regret and that you're missing this person.
Right.
That it's not so much about you and that person as it is about you and
Right.
what you
Right.
tell yourself
Right.
about what happened.
Right.
And are you doing this because you're standing in your health and recovery, or I need to protect myself from the level of pathology? I would want to really support wherever one lands.
Yep.
if you were creating or the one that's saying, I can't have any contact with you because it's not safe for me, and they
Mm.
don't want it, they won't want to know why,
Right.
probably, or you would have already told them that.
Yep.
The idea of doing it in segments, because I think people struggle with forever,
Right. Yeah.
unless we do this really fascinating activity. It's an enactment where we'll do somebody's genogram and we
Mm.
can map their whole family.
Yep.
And we like to go back a few generations and we're looking for patterns
Oh, yeah.
because that estrangement,
It's coming from somewhere.
well,
Yeah.
it might be how this family solves problems. You're
Exactly.
dead to me.
Yep.
And then the next partner, you're dead to me. Like I've met people where their parents have had 3 and 4 and 5 divorces. Like,
Yeah.
where's the accountability in
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And so this adult that I'm working with, who's of course freaking out about, I'm about to get my second divorce,
Mm.
it's helpful to look at the story and what was modeled.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, when I'm having conversations with myself about it and also with
Yeah.
others, because it just seems to be a conversation I'm having more and more with people. And sometimes I think it's, well, when you're pregnant, you see everybody's pregnant, right? And when
Yeah.
you have estrangement in your life, you see everybody else's estrangement. And then you start to relate to it, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh God, boy, I can relate to that. you know? And so, I'm just curious from your perspective, are you seeing more of this disconnection? Because it's easier to disconnect than
Right.
deal with it, right? It's like
Right.
divorce, the same thing. So for me, I've been divorced twice, right?
Mm.
And my second divorce really, and I write about this in the book, is that, what I realized, and I was looking at my pattern, right?
Yeah.
Am I repeating
Yeah.
this again? What the hell, right?
Right.
And so, and I really made I know the pain that I caused my first two children in the first divorce. So I made a really deliberate motion in my second divorce to make sure that I
Mm.
didn't do that again,
Yeah.
right? That I didn't like let my children suffer from my choices
Yeah.
as much as I did it the first time, right? And
Mm.
so because I was younger,
Right.
you learn,
Right.
and then you get more experience, and you think about, okay, what am I doing here? So I have a healthy relationship right now with my ex, my current ex, which I didn't have with my first ex,
Yeah.
right? And
That's
I
beautiful.
like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's good for me, for him, and for our kids, right?
Right.
You have to have a healthy relationship with people, no matter what the circumstances are, right?
Yeah.
So for me, running away and estrangement just isn't in my vocabulary.
Well, there's no ownership in it.
Yeah.
And I think that too is what helps for all the mistakes I've made. And when I think about the generations to come, I want to own, I want to hear
Yeah.
my
I'll take accountability for
children's.
my part in this,
Exactly.
right? But give you
Exactly.
the opportunity to be a part of the conversation at least, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you seeing more and more of this? Is it related to technology and and political? Because I'm seeing it with political as well,
Yeah.
right? People are like, oh, because you believe in so and so, now I'm going to go this way, right? I
Right.
don't want to talk to you anymore because you and I can't talk because every
Right.
time we talk. So can't you just agree to not talk about politics? And we value our relationship, right?
Exactly.
And we want to have a good, healthy relationship together. So how do we do that and be mature adults?
Well, we really love helping people with that assessment.
Yeah.
How do you look at that? And how do you uh, get into your adult instead of maybe responding like a child
Yeah.
or responding like a super control?
Yeah.
And how do you make that more right size? Because it is the adult that is full of feelings, that's able to be vulnerable and speak into what they want and need without having to tantrum or get rigid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Again, it's harder to do the work,
Yeah.
right? And I
But
think
it's really possible.
it is.
It's
Oh, it
so
is.
possible.
And it
Healing
feels
is
good when you do
beautiful.
it too,
Right.
right?
Right.
It feels good when you step back and you take the time to do the hard work.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we're gonna close with that
I
because I
love it.
think that's a great way to say. So for those listening out there, do the
Yeah.
hard work because you will reap the benefits of it.
Well, I have to ask though, really quick,
Sure.
when is your book coming out and
Oh,
how do I get it? Come
yes.
on, Lori.
April 21st, the book is coming out.
Ooh,
Yes. And I don't have copies of it in front of me today because they're like arriving tomorrow.
oh,
And I
that's
know
so
this episode's
exciting.
gonna be played, not until a few weeks from now, so it'll be out by then, obviously. But yeah,
Fabulous.
so we're excited to see where it goes and to really create this resilience revolution. That's what we're after, and
I
this is
want an
exactly what the message we want people to hear. Yeah,
beautiful.
do the hard work.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Oh,
This was lovely.
it was very great, and I appreciate all the knowledge that you bring to this and the work that you do.
And
It's
likewise.
just so rewarding and so important today. Okay?
Amen.
All right. Have
All
a great
right.
day, everybody. I look forward to watching you on the next episode. And before we go, I promised at every episode that I would give you something at the end of the show. And when this is posted, you're going to get another stress audit that you can do where you can change your mindset and reframe your mindset and your thinking and do some deep breathing to be able to confront the challenges that you're faced with today. So thank you again for listening and enjoy the book and enjoy the exercise around your stress audit. Thank you. That's a wrap on this one. Thanks for being here. It means more than you know. If you know someone who could gain value from a more positive mindset, share this with them. Or better yet, model it for them. Be the domino that starts the resilience revolution we all need to move forward. Remember, every comeback started with a setback, and resilience is a muscle you build one rep at a time. I'll catch you on the next episode.